Welcome back. I'm Steve, your guide to this course. In the previous module, we set the foundation for your learning experience. We talked about what to expect from this course and learned why we need to examine our processes and look for ways to improve. In this module, you'll begin learning about Lean and the role it can play in helping your healthcare organization improve the way it provides patient care. We'll start by examining what Lean is. We'll talk about ways to apply Lean successfully to healthcare and areas where the uniqueness of healthcare requires us to modify Lean practices or not use them at all. We'll demystify Lean terms and concepts so that you can confidently talk about Lean with anyone, from a die-hard Lean expert to a member of your practice who knows little about it. But let's start with the problem, as we'll do at the beginning of each module in the course. We'll ask you to figure out the solution to the problem before the end of the lesson, when we'll reveal it. Nathan, a medical assistant at OMP, is in charge of ordering supplies for the medical staff. He normally buys disposable medical gloves in bulk every 2 months, even when there's a few weeks' supply in the storage room. Although the gloves are a significant expense, he believes that it's necessary to have more on hand than the practice usually needs, just in case. Sally, Nathan's supervisor, suggests that there is a more cost-effective way to make these purchases. Nathan argues that he shouldn't change the ordering process or schedule. How can Sally explain her better solution to Nathan? Think about it for a moment, then click Next. Chances are you already know something about Lean, maybe even quite a lot. Take a minute to think about what you already know or have heard about Lean. Make a list of 5 of them. For example, you could write a process improvement program or green belts and black belts. Get the idea? Click Next when you're finished. I'll bet that most of the things you wrote down have nothing to do specifically with healthcare. But we'll show you in a minute that Lean has definite applications for your medical practice. So what exactly is Lean? Ironically, for a discipline that helps us bring clarity and exactness to our processes, Lean is anything but clear or exact. And that's part of the problem. If you ask 10 people what Lean is, you'll likely get 10 different answers. People tend to define Lean from their own knowledge or training. Here are a few of these answers.
Lean is all about improving efficiency for a single process, a single department, or a single facility.
Lean is an overarching mindset, a philosophy that governs all activities, and an enterprise-wide way of life.
Lean is all about tools and the way you use them to remove waste and add value.
To understand Lean, you have to study its heritage in Japan and learn the dozens of terms and expressions that the Japanese use.
You see the problem? But Lean needn't be so confusing. At its most basic level, Lean is primarily a systematic method for eliminating waste within a process. Lean creates more value for customers with fewer resources. That's all you need to know for now. A Lean organization understands customer value and focuses its key processes to continually increase it. So, how might we apply these Lean concepts to our practice? One way might be to eliminate unnecessary wait times for our patients, which provides more value to them in the form of time savings. And we can accomplish this with fewer resources because we don't have to provide extra waiting room space for patients, or take the time to check on them and let them know how much longer the wait may be. Another way might be to use Lean to reduce our inventory of supplies by eliminating redundant supply cabinets and, as a result, decrease costs. Here's one of the most interesting aspects of Lean. It helps us become cost-focused and, at the same time, patient-focused. This is one of the reasons that Lean can be so powerful in a medical practice. It addresses 2 dynamics that are most important in this changing world of healthcare: cost control and patient experience. Now that you know what Lean is and what it does, it's helpful to know where Lean came from and how others have tried to apply it to healthcare. First, look at these 2 pictures. The picture on the left is an automobile assembly line, and the picture on the right is a medical office, let's say it's your office. Take a few moments to think about any similarities between the two. Car assembly line versus medical office. Click Next after you've jotted down a few of these similarities. You might have written down that both have people, and sometimes people need medical attention, or both have expenses and both require supplies, or both require coordination and cooperation among different areas. You might have thought of others. We performed this thought exercise because lean originated in manufacturing, specifically automobile manufacturing in Japan. Lean was the result of decades of aggressive process improvement initiatives, applied in a highly structured production environment, and designed to assemble thousands of parts to create products. If you're thinking that this is the polar opposite of a medical practice, you're right. And because manufacturing is totally different from healthcare, not all lean principles used in manufacturing will apply to healthcare. So acknowledging that we work with unique patients, not assembly line products, allows us to selectively apply lean principles and practices that make sense in a much less structured environment. And what happens when all the manufacturing principles and practices used in lean are applied to a medical practice? Answer: abject failure. You may have heard about or even participated in some of these failures resulting from trying to take lean methodologies that work so well in a static manufacturing environment and trying to force them to work in the dynamic healthcare setting. It won't work. So our goal in this course is to help you to begin to see the difference and develop the ability to distinguish between lean tools and techniques that can't and shouldn't be applied to healthcare from those that can and should. So, how might a process improvement expert view the healthcare environment? Dr. Robert Mecklenburg and a group of executives from Virginia Mason Medical Center traveled to a Toyota production plant in Japan to study lean and to see whether it had applications in healthcare. They met with a Toyota sensei, which is Japanese for master teacher. Through an interpreter, the sensei asked, "How long are patients waiting?" Dr. Mecklenburg replied, 45 minutes or so. The sensei then asked if the patients had scheduled appointments, to which Dr. Mecklenburg said they did. The sensei then asked, "You have waiting rooms where the patients wait for scheduled appointments for 45 minutes to see the doctor?" Dr. Mecklenburg nodded yes. The interpreter then said, "Sensei wishes to know, aren't you ashamed?" Dr. Mecklenburg later told colleagues, "I was ashamed." That interaction led to a successful initiative within Virginia Mason to eliminate waiting rooms and patient waiting in many of their clinics. While we have to be careful to consider the uniqueness of our patients and the services we provide, lean can help us view our practices from a new perspective that places great emphasis on patient-centered care. It helps us find better ways of doing things that bring greater value to our patients, while at the same time allowing us to operate with greater economy and cost savings. As we develop our own lean perspective, we will begin to see that the areas we've taken for granted, like waiting rooms and expecting the patient to wait, don't have to be a normal part of the process. In fact, if we apply lean thinking, we will first assume zero wait time. Then we'll work to see where we need to add wait time because there's a waste that can't be completely eliminated, or it would cost so much to eliminate it that it's not worth doing so. But in the process, if we have to add wait time, it will be the exception and will result in far less waiting than the current system. Our growing lean perspective will also allow us to begin to distinguish between the outcome and the experience. To describe this, we'll need to use a familiar customer service situation that's outside of healthcare. Imagine you're taking your car to a quick service garage for a scheduled oil change. You drop off the car outside a service bay, talk to the mechanic, and step into the waiting room. Inside, you notice that the TV isn't working and the coffee machine doesn't dispense any coffee. The electronic sign says the approximate wait time is 10 minutes. But 45 minutes later, your car is now just being pulled into the service bay. Then 50 minutes later, you pay your bill and drive home. Your oil was changed. It was a successful outcome. But did you enjoy the experience? Most likely not. Would you recommend this particular garage to your family or friends? Most likely not. But let's get back to what we know, healthcare. Just seeing patients, diagnosing their illness, giving them a prescription, and sending them on their way without regard to their experience at your office are no longer enough. The outcome and the patient experience are now both important, and Lean can help us improve them both. At this point, we need to quickly review a few terms and concepts that are commonly used in Lean. We've listed them here. Mean, variation, variability, push, pull, muda, or waste, value add, and non-value add. By the way, you'll also find complete definitions of these and other Lean terms by clicking the glossary icon. First, the mean or average is the sum of a collection of numbers divided by how many numbers are in the collection. In healthcare, the mean is often a misused measure of what the typical patient encounters, such as average wait time. On the other hand, variation measures how far this collection of numbers is spread out. It's what the patient actually experiences. If the average wait time is 10 minutes, but you happen to be waiting for 45 minutes, you aren't satisfied and the 10-minute average means nothing to you. Manufacturing or service processes don't produce identical results every time. In fact, they produce variability. This is inherent in nature and illustrated by the normal-shaped bell curve. Variability may be caused by identifiable forces acting on the process or by minute fluctuations within the process. Common measures of variability are range, from low to high spread, standard deviation or relative dispersion from the mean, and variance, or, as we just defined, how far a set of numbers is spread out. As we mentioned, our patients do not feel the mean or average. They experience the variation in the process. So it's usually more important to look for variation and work to limit it than it is to measure our performance on averages. Now let's talk about push and pull. It's easiest to see push and pull at work in fast food chains. McDonald's started out as a classic push operation. When you walked in the door, McDonald's already had hamburgers, cheeseburgers, Big Macs, and Quarter Pounders made and waiting. So when you placed your order, voila, it was ready. Well, that is, as long as you ordered a hamburger, cheeseburger, Big Mac, or Quarter Pounder, and as long as you didn't want something special, like a hamburger with no onions and extra pickles, or a filet-o-fish. The system discourages customers from ordering exactly what they want and encourages them to order the product we guessed they wanted. How? By making the customer wait longer for a special order and go wait in a special place. Sounds like being sent to the timeout room. Where was the push at McDonald's? Its team members pushed product to you based on what they thought you were going to order, rather than letting your order pull them to make the product for you. By contrast, the Subway restaurant is a pull operation. When you walk in, its team members have ingredients ready that allow them to make any sandwich on the menu. But they don't try to guess what you're going to order. They let your order pull them to provide the sandwich you want, just the way you want it. Push systems are based on forecast demand, and our forecast of what we think the customer will want is very seldom entirely correct. On the other hand, pull systems are based on actual customer demand. So, how does push and pull relate to healthcare, and specifically to a medical practice? Well, like a lot of lean manufacturing concepts, push-pull needs to be adapted to our environment. An example of the difference between push and pull happens every day in most practices. It goes like this. A patient arrives, checks in, and is asked to take a seat in the reception area. When an exam room opens up, the patient is moved to the exam room. There, she may wait some more for the medical assistant to document the initial visit information for the physician. Then she waits until the physician is available. That's a push system. It's driven by availability of the exam room, availability of the medical assistant, and availability of the physician. The practice has to forecast the need for exam rooms, medical assistants, and physicians, and make those resources available to the patients based on the forecast. But from the patient's perspective, all we've done is built in wait time, but spread it out between waiting in the reception area and waiting in the exam room. An ideal pull system would be driven by the actual demand of the patient. So after checking in, the patient would be brought back immediately to the exam room by the medical assistant. As soon as the medical assistant is done, the physician would become available and begin the exam. So the patient is pulling resources when they're needed rather than our pushing resources when we have them available. Is it possible to implement an ideal pull system with patient flow in your medical practice? Maybe, or maybe not. But understanding push and pull so you can evaluate and adopt the role it could play in improving your processes is an important step in developing your lean leadership skills. By the way, over the years, McDonald's has had to completely change from push to pull to match the customized ability of the competition.
Have it your way at Burger King.
Lean thinking is not about directly influencing the content of moments when patients and staff are in contact. Rather, it's about giving more time for those moments and making them easier and less prone to error. This is done by focusing on the patient, making hard-to-perform steps easier, and removing unnecessary steps and waste. The Japanese have a word for waste, muda. Waste takes the form of time, costs, and inventory that the customer. There are 8 common wastes in healthcare. Reducing these wastes is an effective way to increase profitability. Click each box for an example. Our next critical concepts are value add and non-value add. Value add is anything from a process that the customer is willing to pay for. On the other hand, non-value add is anything from a process that the customer is not willing to pay for. Typical non-value add activities include counting, handling, waiting, stocking, storing, signing off, multiple order processing, and moving. Often, the same amount of effort applied in optimizing the non-value-added activity, which is typically 90% of activity, as the value-added activity, the remaining 10%, yields significantly greater results. However, most improvements in healthcare focus solely on the 10% value-added activity, not the 90% non-value-added. As a lean leader, one of your goals will be to focus on turning that upside down so your organization's process improvement works to decrease or eliminate the non-value added activity. Finally, in lean terminology, customer needs and desires are expressed as the voice of the customer, or VOC. For example, VOC can be specific. I request delivery within 7 days. Or ambiguous, better customer service. The VOC can be compared against internal data, or voice of the process, to assess current process performance and capability. To describe VOC, let's go back to McDonald's. Their leadership wanted to find out how to improve sales, so they created a study to better understand what their customers purchased. They found that the top 4 products sold were French fries, Big Mac, milkshakes, and Egg McMuffins. But looking at what was sold is not the same as understanding why the customer was buying these products. When the leadership listened to the VOC, they found something interesting. They learned that the reason why their customers buy from them is not the product per se, but the value-add process that McDonald's represents to them. Namely, they found that the top 4 value-add items were 1. Consistency, the same product or taste no matter what store a customer may go to. 2. Convenience, location and speed to get the food. 3. Toys, kids love them. And 4. Similarly, that kids identify with McDonald's, children want to go to McDonald's, and they identify with Ronald McDonald and other aspects of McDonald's. How does Lean's voice of the customer concept apply to medical practice? Simply put, healthcare also needs to look past the patient visits and the procedures they bill for and better understand why their patients are coming to them. Only then can they begin to eliminate waste, become more profitable, and win more business. Lean tells us that our customers, that is, our patients, define what quality is, and we need to listen to them. Now let's return to the problem that we raised at the beginning of this lesson. As you recall, Nathan normally buys disposable medical gloves in bulk every 2 months, even when there's a few weeks' supply in the storage room. Sally, Nathan's supervisor, suggests that there is a more cost-effective way to make these purchases. The question was, how can Sally explain her better solution to Nathan? The answer is, Sally can describe the pull philosophy, so that Nathan orders the gloves when the office needs them, not just in case the office needs them, but with the understanding that the office will always have enough gloves in the storage room.